What's going on? It's May 12th, 2026. Already May. We're out here looking at the pre-market. It's a big day. Got CPI, got some good movers. So we're going to get into it. To start, the markets are finally going down a little bit. It's been a crazy AI rally, but oil's ripping higher and it's starting to actually scare some people off. The CPI is going to come out in about 45 minutes, is also having people a little cautious because if that comes in hot, the sentiment can definitely turn. Investors still want to buy AI and tech. I mean, the fear and greed index is still in the greed category. It's not like everybody's getting totally shaken out, but the rising oil prices and tension in Iran, it definitely just pressures everything a little bit. The obvious thought that a lot of people are thinking is higher oil prices means higher inflation risk. So CPI is going to be a good read on how we're feeling with that, but we'll find out how that does in about 45 minutes. We're also seeing a pretty good rise in yields right now, and I remember back 2 or 3 years ago when yields would spike up even a little bit over a certain level, the market would not like it and dip right down. So we'll see if that starts to play in. It's going to be hard for anything to take down the market though, because like I said, it's going vertical. It's pretty strong ever since the beginning of April. And even with the stuff that's going on in the world with oil, Iran conflict, whatever it may be, the market doesn't seem to really care. For some individual names to keep an eye on, Nvidia is going to be an obvious one. It goes without saying that it's going to go one way or another. If CPI is good and doesn't scare people off, the AI trade will continue and Nvidia will probably grind up. But if CPI is pretty bad and people are getting scared off, you can expect this one to continue down. Right now it's down about 0.8%. Nothing crazy, but it's just a little bit of profit taking from it hitting all-time highs. Another one to keep an eye on is just oil in general. Specific stocks would be like Chevron and ExxonMobil. These stocks are going to rise when oil rises, of course, because they'll just make some more money. So keep an eye on these ones. See how oil reacts to the Iran tensions throughout the day. Trump has a meeting in China this week, so that could, he loves to talk the talk. At any point, he could also just go on Truth Social and say something ridiculous that scares everybody off, makes oil go up 10%, and it turns the fear right back on. So just keep an eye on this one. The last individual pre-market mover to look at real quick is going to be Hims and Hers. They just reported earnings yesterday, and it was below expectations, and they got punished pretty hard. At one point, they were down over 15%. Now they're down a little bit under 15%. And you could look for this to recover throughout the day if the market sentiment is positive, or just continue to get crushed throughout the rest of the week if market sentiment's pretty bad. The market was not forgiving to this one, and as soon as they missed, the market let it know that it did not like it for sure. So that's an interesting one. It could be a good dip buy, honestly, but we'll see. Besides those few pre-market movers, the main thing that everybody's looking at is going to be CPI. By the time this goes up, it'll probably be out, and this is just going to be huge. With the rising oil prices, it's going to be really important to see how inflation is looking. It could really shift momentum, or it could just kind of validate the upward move that we've seen recently. With the strength that the market has, it's probably going to have to be pretty bad for it to reverse the market. Even if it's just a little bad, people might just consider it a buy the dip opportunity. And even if you see a gap down, like a continued one of what we're already seeing, it might just rise up through the day. We've seen it too many times where the market dips in the morning from some bad news, and then as soon as it opens, money just floods in all day and it just melts up back to green. So if it comes in a little scary, don't bet the farm on the market totally reversing back to year lows, because it could just get scooped right up and the AI trade could really carry it back to highs. Another big one to keep an eye on is the Iran peace deal and the Iran war just reigniting. Trump's not talking great about the ceasefire, and like I said, at any moment he could just snap and just say that they're going to start the attacks again. I know Israel doesn't think the war is over, Trump doesn't think the war is over, and it could get ugly again. But until that happens, I wouldn't be too worried. The rising oil prices are definitely concerning, but you have to ride the momentum as the market's going up. You just have to. Besides those pre-market movers, I've got a few little individual names to keep an eye on. We've got NVIDIA, it's the leader of the AI trade, and we went over that before. If the market's good, it'll probably get carried up and melt up to new highs again. And if it's bad, it's up, it's inflated, it's pretty up there, so it'll be a good opportunity to trade to the downside. You've got Tesla. Tesla's in a pretty hype spot right now. It ripped up to pretty good levels, and if the market continues to be bullish, it could really get into that euphoric phase that Tesla likes to get into once in a while, where it's just going up 5% a day. But if the market turns bad, Tesla could get sour real fast. Palantir is an interesting one because there's a couple ways you can look at it. You can either see it as like a defense name, and if the Iran war tension starts lighting up again, Palantir might trade higher off of that. But it can also be considered an AI momentum play, so if the market trades up on the AI trade, Palantir could benefit. It hasn't really gotten much love lately, but it's at an okay price considering that every other AI name is getting pumped to the moon. So if someone's looking for a dip and they had their money parked out of fear and they're going to get in now, Palantir might be something that they consider. So just keep an eye on Palantir. You also have AMD. AMD's been ripping since it reported earnings, and it's really up there too. But the chip sector is just, it's name of the game right now. If the market continues to be bullish, AMD, the price is up there, but the market cap isn't anything ridiculous. They reported really good earnings, and compared to Nvidia, they're still a tiny dog, so they could just continue higher. Keep an eye on Micron too, also SanDisk, but Micron's more of the main name. The memory trade's been crazy, and it might not be over yet. I hear that Micron's like one of the cheapest stocks in the S&P 500 based on earnings. So although it's pumped pretty high, and it might have almost tripled in the past few months, just because it's gone up so much doesn't mean it has to go down. When something goes up this much and holds it for even a couple days, there's usually a reason. And people compare it to the dot-com bubble. They start to get crazy saying that like all this is invalid, and it might be a little overvalued. It's getting to that level where it's probably pricing in perfection, but at the same time, it could very well be executed. So just because it's up doesn't mean that it has to come down. That being said, if something does show cracks, these names that are really, really inflated are going to be good ones to trade to the downside because these people that are getting in at the top will get out quick if it starts to look scary for sure. We talked about it before, but I'll mention it again. Chevron, also XOM, ExxonMobil, just the oil exposure. If the market gets ugly and oil starts to really rip and you need a name to go long on, oil's going to be your guy. Oil stays strong. Even when the market's going up like this, oil's not really going down too much. So either way, it's not too bad. If you go to a gas station, you can see that gas prices are still high. So although on the computer, the oil prices might be trading down, when you're living life, oil's still up there. So they're making good money. And the last individual names are going to be Target and Walmart. These ones, Target's a little beat up already. Walmart's been doing pretty good. But if the inflation comes in hot in about a half an hour, that's going to show that consumers aren't going to be spending as much and people might, sell off those stocks because of that. You can look at it two ways. You can say, oh, Target's already beat up, so there's not as much downside. Or you could say, Target's already beat up because they're just weaker and there's going to be easier downside. It could go either way, where, Target holds a little bit better because it's already down, or, Walmart holds up a little bit better because it's just stronger. I don't know, so take your trade as you please if you play these ones. So just to touch on the CPI one more time, if it comes in soft enough, traders will probably view it as a dip buy and it won't totally turn the market into a bearish mess. You might get that initial dip at 8:30 and it might make a low into the open, but it could very well climb up and melt up into the day, close the gap, and even go to the upside. We've seen it before, especially in markets like this where, everything is just rising. It could very well recapture its positive day and continue higher for sure. The semiconductors carry, so just keep an eye on those. If they just keep getting pumped, the NASDAQ and S&P 500 are probably going to follow. It's not to say it's immortal, though. If CPI is really bad, it could very well follow through to the downside. Look, we're up 16.58% in a month. If stuff starts to get scary, there's a lot of room to give up, and it would still be up a good amount in the last month. It could go down 10% in a couple weeks and it would still be green on the month. So just keep that in mind. So that's pretty much it. Let me know what you're going to trade. I don't even know what I'm going to do here yet today. We're going to have to wait for CPI, but it'd be really cool to, get into a dip and ride it up back to new all-time highs. CPI is going to have to be okay, though, for sure. The Iran conflict is a little scary. Hansa virus was scary for about 15 minutes, and then it kind of got waved off. We'll see how that progresses in the next few weeks. But for today only, I would expect a dip buy if it continues to go down, or CPI is just going to heal the market back up to being green, and we're just going to continue to melt up. So that's what I would look out for. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.